Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the London session on TopstepTV. I am in a DAX short at the moment, full DAX, so I'm actually looking to take that off very soon because we're coming into the gap fill. We smashed through all-time highs, reversed, so I basically jumped in once there was some wiggle around VWAP. So let me just go and book that because this is now quite dangerous. All right, so that's about 2.1k on DAX. And I can talk through that trade. But if you're here for the first time, my name is Deeyana Angelo, aka Market Stalker D. I've been trading for 18 years. Specializing in some of the more alternative products, such as DAX, crude oil, gasoline futures, platinum, copper, etc. Right, how do we do this? Let me think. Yeah, okay, so let's go to the daily chart, and then I'm going to see what's going on with the metals, which also might be pretty interesting today. So the daily chart on DAX, what we had today is that we smashed through this all-time high. Now, once that happened, I was watching it. They started reversing it already in the second 30 minutes of London. I also had some options levels that I was watching, and this is why I didn't jump into it immediately. So we had the projected daily range max from the options around, let's say, 450, right? So that's where that was. Now, usually if these are going to get extended, they typically ignore it immediately and then just keep going. This didn't happen, so they kind of smashed through it and then came into sort of a gamma wall that I converted from S&P 500s at 23,350. So 23,350, that's about here. Now, once that happened, I also saw there was weakness around VWAP, but I waited until we retested this whole area to see whether they can bring it down. And effectively, I just sniped it from there, and then it just kind of fell fast and furious before I could even do anything. Now that we are at the gap fill area from yesterday, this whole area becomes very, very dangerous for further shorts. So we could have a failed auction at some point. Very, very lively morning on DAX today. With some very good levels as well. So, I did my trade, so may leave it alone to chill, because anytime we have a pretty good trade straight off the bat, I need to give it time. Because the last thing you want to do, whether it's after a losing trade or after a winning trade, is to just start clicking buttons. You just want to digest that information and then just give it at least 30 minutes, which is where this manual lockout for at least 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour might actually come in handy. But I don't need to do that because I'm not going to click buttons. I don't have a problem with that. All right, let's see who is in the room. We've got Dan Trader. I'm sorry about the lighting in here. One of my dogs insists on opening the window, and it's really sunny. This is a south-facing office, so it's super sunny, and it's messing up all the lights. So just, bear with me. You don't need to look at me anyways, right? So Dan Trader, don't know when you sleep, man. Yeah, I always see you in here all day, every day. Amanda says, good morning, Dee. Hope you're having a good week. New York has been insane for indices. Do you know what? Everything has been insane, including DAX. DAX yesterday went on a run of 542 ticks. Just to put things in perspective, usually DAX moves about 200, 220, and that's over an entire 24-hour period. So to have over double that range, that does mean that we have a volatility expansion in indices across the board. So it's not just equities in the States, it is also people over in here having the knock-on effect from whatever's going on in the States. Because, introduction of tariffs is probably not going to just affect Canada and Mexico, right? It's going to probably trickle over onto this side of things as well. So we'll see what happens. But, very interesting times, very tricky times. So, yeah. We'll see what we can do with that. All right, let me have a look at what's going on in some of the other products. Now, platinum yesterday didn't have a super crazy day. Copper did, so I'm not too happy trading it today. Why? Because every time you have an insane day like this, yeah, you might get a pretty decent day right after. What do we have technically? We're pretty high up, testing the swing extreme. This is a Q high, so top quartile taken from the 4-hour chart, but this is actually a daily because I want to see where that is. Pretty thin volumes up here, so this was a very, very quick move. The main sort of crux of the activity is down at 464.21. Are we going to reach that today? I don't know. It's one day ahead of NFP. So, we could be interesting. We could either have a super quiet day, which I don't think copper is having right now because it's a pretty sizable movement already, or we could see unwinding of positions. So, it's one of those things. Stay flexible. Let's see what the London range brings us, and let's not jump into any crazy positions unless you see something ultra obvious like the DAX trade. To me, that was like star setup. We attempt to go over all-time highs where we just happen to have projected maximum range for the day. Then they smash down, go into a possible call area, but then ignore it, retest it. We have VWAP, weakness at VWAP, short into a gap fill, done. So that's what that was. But generally, you don't get setups that are that clear this early in the morning. This is like a one-off situation. But, good start to the day. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Jerome is here. Jerome, I need to get you on here, man, one day. Because you're in France, right? So you're awake during this time. See, one of the problems that with everybody who's over across the pond and in Chicago, part of the core team, they're all asleep at this time, usually. I know that a couple of them are night owls and stuff, but generally people are asleep. So Jerome, if you're down, maybe once the team is back from their ultra secret retreat, maybe we can get you out here next week. I always feel so guilty with Coach Ray, dragging him out of bed at 1:30 a.m. It's like, come on, Ray, come on to a London session. Who else have we got? Brishti is here, Grant is here, Alex PA, Shay is here, Wes, C4, obviously Bruno with the wrist disclosure, always here, Teo, Anti-Up, Ace, Nanka, Insane Observer, affecting the observed. Yeah, could be, yeah. DM says, morning D, first time here, just curious, London opens 3 a.m. EST this time of year? No. Yes, but I don't typically trade the first hour. I don't even trade the first 90 minutes or even 2 hours on most days. Obviously today in DAX we had a bit of a weird moment, but even that, I still only entered that in C period. And look at what happens. Like, we've only just now extended the range. Now, on most normal days where we're not smashing all-time highs into the projected one-day max range, I will actually wait for this setup. So this is now another setup developing. However, I want to give it time. Like, I want to give it about 15 minutes to, even half an hour to fail the auction at this gap close. So basically, this is hypo 2 now. But I need to see that this is sustained. If it's, if this VWAP where we also have call resistance remains, then this is not going to rotate up. It's a bit of a precarious situation for longs. We're a bit too high up. There will be people who want to offload some positions around here. Is the failed auction long after an attempted move lower but post gap fill? Is that the right thing to be doing? Yeah, maybe, but I still need to see a very, very committed price action that will tell me they have nothing in the way. And I mean, look at this on a 15-minute chart. This is just like, evening star formation, drop-based drop, creating these problematic areas on the way down. When I say problematic, this is like, drop-based drop. What does it create? It creates a speed bump or, some kind of a supply. I don't generally want to see that if I'm going to do a failed auction, because this is just going to add time onto anything that you're trying to do, because it's a speed bump, right? Somebody sold there. They tried to go higher, failed, strong selling it overnight VWAP. And now we have the speed bump. So until I see that they're kind of pushing into it, maybe catch it on a retrace. So, go into here, maybe create some sort of a bullish engulfing somewhere. It's not going to be here because that would mean most of the failed auction will be done, right? So it needs to be like very specific conditions where we go into this speed bump, specifically today, and then we retest a newly formed demand, and then we go higher. So, it's going to take time. It's not going to be super quick setup, primarily because of this. Now, while we wait, obviously we don't have DAX on Topstep, so this is a bit pointless talking about it. So if you're trading it elsewhere, you can take that as a potential setup. But with Topstep, around about this time of day, I do like to have a look at platinum and copper because they do tend to move on most of the days. But yeah, we'll see what kind of a day we have ahead of NFP. I'm not expecting to. I mean, I never expect anything anyway. But ahead of the NFP, we always have a bit of weirdness. You can either have like these huge moves, which arguably we had yesterday, right? So we had an attempted move down in equities. Copper went insane. Berserk went like a million ticks to the upside. How likely statistically are we to have another mad day in copper? It has happened before where, full retracement the next day did occur. But it's not exactly the norm, right? So I want to look for something more obvious that actually has some merit behind it, rather than let's shoot for an event that I've observed twice in the last 3 years. So yeah, platinum I thought might be a good candidate. So let's have a look at some platinum levels actually. Like you saw yesterday, I took you through the entire setup of what I look for. I cleaned up the chart, started fresh, and now you probably have a pretty good idea of what my levels mean. If you don't, go and rewatch yesterday's London session because it was pretty detailed, and I literally spent the entire session just talking about setting up charts, what each of the areas mean, what each line means. So we'll keep that one in mind. But basically, I start with large time frames. For efficiency purposes, let's just start on the daily chart. Now, platinum, actually, no. Let's go to the weekly, because I think weekly will provide you with some context here. Why I might be looking at longs today. All right, so have a look at here. We have a demand on the massive weekly time frame. We're attempting to reverse there. These are massive moves. I'm not going to be trading from the demand area on the weekly chart, but it can provide context of what the big boys have done, what the wizards are doing, and then kind of try and look for the evidence of the same thing happening intraday, should we get to some interesting areas during the course of the session. So on the daily chart, I would argue that this is probably a reversal. So we had bullish engulfing, a little bit of a follow through. Now, we have a developing candle, so this is all up in air. We have the previous day low at 965.8. No real notable good quality supplies anywhere. So not really much to glean from the daily chart here. 4-hour chart, what did Asia do? Minor pullback, not really smashing through any significant levels. Can we call this a range, maybe? Is this a range? Quite potentially. So, yeah, maybe this is a range. So let's say that we have a demand area at 965 as the bottom part of that range. Now I'm going to clean up some of these because these are very old. This is new because I started this and then saw DAX and I'm like, hold on, this is set up. Where is the London value area from yesterday? Remember, this is just shortened London value. It's up at, so value low is 978.4. I'm going to put that through coordinates. And you see, instead of clicking more buttons on DAX and going, yes, it's going along, let's do it, I'm doing something else to keep my mind and fingers busy away from DAX, right? Because I know that some people have a problem with like, oh my God, I had a winning trade, or oh my God, I had a losing trade, let's go in again. No, you need to breathe. You need to step away, reset your mind. And that goes for winning trades as well. People get like elated. They have a, squirt of dopamine in their brain and they're like, I am the God's gift to trading. I can do no wrong now. And it's like, yes, you can, because now you're going to give it all back because it's not you trading. It's the animal side of you. It's the limbic system taking over. So we cannot allow that. We need to be very, very aware of what our brains are doing. Both when you lose, that's like fear. So you get fear-based fight or flight response. I must fight back. The lion is chasing me. It's a death threat. It's not. It's just some lost money. And by the same token, you have elation, euphoria. This is usually something you experience in the first sort of couple of years. You win and you go, yes. But nowadays, I don't know. I win, I lose. I'm just like, that's all right. It makes you into a more of a, leveled person. More of a leveled person, let's say. So, yeah. Yeah, Jerome D says, breathe. Breathe. Exactly. There's actually a pretty good technique that I first heard from the Yoga Nidra girl, Ali Boothroyd. Basically, and then Andrew Huberman also mentioned it. So, Jerome, this is your really your territory here. But basically it's about inhaling and then inhaling again before you exhale. So effectively doing now that apparently does something to relieve stress in the moment over just going box breathing or just inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. I don't know what I'm not a neuroscientist. I have a passing interest in it, but, I would never in any sort of universe claim that I'm anything close to a neuroscientist. Just, a layman who likes to read a lot. But yeah, there's apparently something to do with the way our brains are wired, that when you do that, it kind of releases stress and cortisol very, very quickly, right? And Nanka says, yeah, just don't allow the breath to rise above the throat. Rise above the throat. Let me think about that. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Now, I used to, I mean, I suppose I still do play alto sax. So I have very good control of my breath in general because, you have to. And I always breathe from my diaphragm. So, some people breathe from their chest, and that can actually cause a little bit of anxiety as well. So yeah, for me, since I was like 9 years old, I've been doing diaphragmatic breathing. That's a mouthful to say. So yeah, Jerome D, here we go. He says, we usually operate at lower levels of oxygen that we would need because our breathing is wrong. So by doing what you describe, you stack. Yes, you sort of like stack the extra oxygen, yeah, and then you have extra supply. So you stack an extra layer of oxygen, and that stimulates the parasympathetic system differently than usual. Breathing being part of the autonomous nervous system, you need to disrupt the autonomy and habits. Yeah. So I don't know how many people know this. I actually have a lovely disorder of the autonomic nervous system as a result of unfortunate vaccine injury. So that's where the chronic illness comes from. And as a result of that, weirdly, I have low cortisol levels. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's a really bizarre condition. But I had to learn a lot of stuff about parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system and how to figure out ways to I don't know whether it's like you're constantly, like, there's a disparity between what my ANS should be doing, and then that also affects my heart rate in a bizarre way. So literally I have something called the orthostatic intolerance. When I'm standing up, it's gotten better over the last year, but it was really horrible like about 2 years ago, where I would stand up and my heart rate would just go completely nuts. Even though I've always had like athletic heart rate, I've been an athlete my whole life. And then that thing happened and everything just went wrong. So I read a lot, so much about what could be going wrong, why things are happening. And, I learned about how our parasympathetic system operates and how you can sort of bring it up almost like on call. Like, just go, ding, can my parasympathetic system please stand up? And breathing was a huge part of that. So was shutting down your thought processes. I don't know what it is about random thoughts that kick off the sympathetic side of the nervous system. But it was paramount in me sort of trying to regain some sort of function of what was going on. And, I am getting better, but it's a very interesting read, though. Even if you don't have to do it for whatever reason, I would say, have a read about the parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. And I think you will find that when you're in that fight or flight response, when you're just clicking buttons for whatever reason, whether it's fear or whether it's elation from having a winning trade, your sympathetic system ramps up, and that's where the problems start happening. So really, most of us need to make sure that we're in that calm state, and that's the parasympathetic nervous system, if I got that right. Yeah, so Jerome says getting more oxygen induces a cooling of the heart system and you lower your cardiovascular activity. DSB, diaphragmatic and slow breathing, is the way to breathe properly, actually, indeed. Yeah. So this is where us who were playing wind instruments, we've got that down. Like, that's like just normal for us. But most people, if you look at, this is something that I have like a professional disorder looking at how people are breathing, and every time I see somebody's chest rising, I don't think I can even do it. Like, I've done diaphragmatic breathing for so long that I've forgotten how to breathe through my chest. So, but yeah, every time I look at someone, like I see a singer or even just person talking, and they go. Like their whole chest just kind of goes up, and I'm like, wow, that's really weird to me now, because I always breathe through through my stomach, effectively, right? Does this happen before the year or right before the new year? Jerome, I'm not a doctor, no. Professor, maybe. That's as high as I got in my education, but no. So third eye, what are you referring to? Does this happen before the year or right before the new year? Jerome, yes, it happens when I stand up. If I stood up faster, yeah, my heart rate would be going crazy. However, even if I was doing something like taking a shower, and, just not even standing up quickly, just standing up, my heart rate would shoot up to like 160, and it would be floating around sort of 83, so nothing, and then I would sit down and it would go back to normal. It was just the oddest thing ever. Very weird, very, very weird. Yeah. It's like third eye, still waking up. Okay, yeah, join the club. So am I, man. Yeah. Yeah, I tried that. I tried everything that they told me. They even did like the table tilt test to see like why that was happening. And it was a disorder of the nervous system. So that was one of the symptoms, one of the few that I had. It was just so weird. Obviously extreme exhaustion, pain just everywhere throughout the body. At one point I felt like somebody was putting electricity through my lower limbs, and I just got like leg weakness, everything. It's a very, very strange condition as a result of what I went through. So it was somewhat of my fault. Like, I'm not blaming anyone for it, because I decided to take the third vaccination, the booster, about 4 months after I took the second dosage, because Boris Johnson told us to. So in a way, we were sort of encouraged to do it, but it was me because the circumstances around my life. We had new puppies. My dad was sick, and actually he died about a month into my vaccination saga. So I would have had to travel. So I was like, well, I want to be healthy for the puppies. I need to travel to see my dad. They wouldn't let you on the plane unless you were fully vaccinated. And I thought to myself, let me just get this out of the way, and, whatever. But unfortunately, I got a full-on shingles breakout in multiple spots that wasn't caught in time, which caused eventually something in the brain to go wrong. And yeah, so I've been dealing with that. But, hey, it's life. We'll get through it. I'm still alive, still pushing. Whatever happens, nothing happens in life where, I'm like super depressed over it. I will adapt, and I have adapted. There's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. So that whole victimhood mentality just doesn't work for me. So whatever happened, we're dealing with it. It's meant to be. Hey, it's fine. Tushar says, so you have tachycardia. So in a way, yes, but it's a weird condition where, just to be clear, I have taken beta blockers for that. So it's gotten much better. And now even when I kind of forget to take them, I've noticed that it's not nearly as bad, right? So I'm healing, guys. I'm healing. Like, it's fine. It's not a problem. But yeah, don't say sorry. It's it's life. It's fine. There's nothing. I'm just if anything, I'm trying to educate people to maybe not repeat some of my mistakes that I've done. Because when you look at some of the scientists' advice over when to take vaccines, you shouldn't be taking boosters less than like 6 months apart, but ideally a year. So, but just by the fact that I did it in like 4 months since the second dosage, obviously wasn't the right thing to do. So, yeah. So maybe don't do that. But yeah. Just grabbed 50 ticks in copper to the downside, looking bullish for the day, C4 says. Bearish. Yeah, I thought it looked bearish as well. I'm just really skeptical about copper after yesterday. How much of an outlier, how many times can you have an outlier day? And Nassim has a solution for my problems. Instead of standing up, just levitate. I'll take that on board. So next time I start to ascend onto the higher planes and have an out-of-body experience, I will definitely take that under advisement. High Volume says, Dee, thank you so much for yesterday's video. Breaking down your indicators is very helpful. Yeah. Does anyone know, Grant says, does anyone know if I can get a strategy I have on my TradingView account into my Topstep X? Tipster X, Topstep X. If it's an automated strategy, like if you have something that's actually doing the trading for you, what I would say is to look out for the triggers and just click on Topstep X. You know, that's what a lot of people do. So you don't necessarily have to bring it over. So use Topstep X as an execution. If you're just talking about external indicators, just like, you know, do what I do. All of these are not a part of native Topstep X, right? They're a part of something else. And then I spend a little bit of time clicking buttons, clicking lines, not buttons, but lines on the charts to get some context. And then I use both. So Topstep X, execution platform, whatever you use on the side is, yeah. So again, when there's a will, there's a way. Let's have a look at some other levels. So to the downside, Platinum has ADR low at 963.3. So let's put that on. London is even lower than that. So obviously we opened up with a bit of an interesting situation here. So London ASR low is down to 957.4. Interesting. Interesting. Are these right? Let me have a look at Platinum today on the option side. Yeah, so clearly I put that on earlier. Don't remember doing that. More coffee required. So why isn't that on this chart then? It's very weird. Is that because they're not connected? I don't know. Okay. Where are we? We're below London value by quite a bit. But at the open, we did open about 0.68%. So within sort of like 0.7% from the value area. There is a chance that at some point we do go into a mean reversion upside. So basically going back up towards VWAP, which is also quite a distance away. So Globex VWAP is 974.5 at the moment. We have tried to go back into initial balance. Right now we're failing. So where is the initial balance? Let's do a couple of red lines to delineate initial balance. So this is initial balance high. And this is initial balance low, same candle, so we stayed range bound. Interesting. And now we attempted to go lower. So if I now mark this, you can see we exited that area, we're below it, tried to go higher, and now we're going lower. Now, I am bullish on metals, so I'm not very keen to short this, primarily because when we get long stepping in, that's like, it's very, very strong. And even yesterday, I did a couple of trades in gold, and both on the short and the long side. So the longs carried on after market. And that's like, we had the settlement, everything should die out, and they would just like trickle upside. Now we go upside, and there's still volume, and we keep buying gold, just keep buying gold. So it's like, that's very unusual, right? When you see that happening. So I don't want to fight the bullishness of metals in light of all the stuff that's happening with tariffs and stuff. So, right now we're in very uncertain times, especially if everything gets more expensive. Is that going to affect inflation? If it is going to affect inflation, then gold should be going up, which it has done, right? So we'll see. I was in Coach Hoop's class yesterday, just as a visitor. I wasn't there to join the class. I was just literally listening to him, and he was saying how he was going through the different contracts, and looking at the distant contracts. So obviously futures we try to trade the front month contracts, but on the CME website you can see what the prices are of future contracts, and I think equities are decreasing, whereas the gold is increasing. So it's you go 1 year out to April 2026, and they're projecting it 3,009 already there. So it's is that bullish for gold? I don't know, but that 3K still stands looming over our heads. I don't know, weird uncle. So I'm gonna keep it PG. Yeah. All right. So platinum, I don't know what to do with it. I would like to see it lower down into this 4-hour supply. Right here, it's sort of middle of nowhere. I would like it to either come back up to VWAP or, at the very least, fail this bloody auction. Don't have any good levels here. We're below GEX1. You can see that here. And in fact, that GEX1 was what stopped the further upside from happening. So yeah, so far very bearish. No good level for me though. A YOLO trade would be if you just short it here and hope for the best. But again, I'm bullish metals, so that would be against my plan. So I'm not gonna go against that. So yeah, let's wait until it's either lower down. This is just such a no man's land for me. More interesting areas, better trade locations for my swings are further away. So yes, not that great. Okay, DAX is extended lower. So again, we had, see, this is why you need to wait. So if I was all, eager beaver to do another trade, on the other side, equities, let's go long. Buy the dip. This would have smacked me on the face, so I'm glad I stayed out of that. And now, the brain is settled and you can breathe. So, yeah. All right, let's have a look at, okay, somebody's saying, Deeyana, I think I could relate. The reason why I feel like I have a nerve problem is because I have a wisdom tooth too close to my mandibular nerve, so the side of my face feels weird. Electric weird feelings around the body. Yeah, that can happen with teeth. And, facial nerves are very, very connected to your teeth, obviously. I try to take care of my teeth. I had to, because I don't know how many of you know, I actually have braces on, and I have lingual braces on the top teeth, but I have aesthetic braces on my lower teeth. Probably can't really see it, and I'm fairly adept at talking with them without much speech effect. But yeah, I actually had a situation where, because of this, I hit my head a few years back, and for some reason I think something happened to my jaw. When that happened, so my top jaw sort of misaligned, and obviously they can't go and re-break my jaw without some major surgery, so we decided to try and move my teeth back to where they should be. So the right page of 42, I decided to get braces again. So I'm still going through that. They should be actually coming off at some point this year. So I'm coming to the end of the treatment, and not that it was my teeth were still straight, but they were slightly out of alignment, and that actually caused me a lot of issues with my jaw pain. I can't stress enough how much health, being pain-free, sleeping well, taking care of yourself in this line of work, where you have to have your brain operating at peak efficiency in order to have peak performance, is important. And let me tell you, I can definitely tell that my performance as a trader has been affected because of the chronic illness. But I don't take excuses for anything, right? So I deal with it as best that I can. Yes, there is an effect there, negative effect, but I'm not going to say, oh, I did a crap trade today because of my chronic illness. It's like, yeah, I might not feel the best, but you still bloody clicked that button, didn't you? So victimhood mentality is something that is very dangerous in this line of work and should be pushed way into the background. Nobody should be a victim. You need to own up to the crap that you're doing in your accounts. And this whole thing, oh, I don't know why it happens. Yeah, explore why it happens and then do your best to change it, right? Size down, slow down. How many times do we have to repeat that? But health, oh my God, so important. Any sort of pain that you have, you come to trade, you say you have nerve pain in the face, feeling weird, that will affect your focus. So you're like sitting there trying to concentrate and then something zooms on your head and you're like, oh, what was that? And it can be very disruptive, obviously. So health, take care of yourselves, guys and girls. You need to try and eat better. Don't eat processed stuff. It's so bad for you. It's very sad to see how many people don't take care of themselves. And I know in this line of work, I've said it before, lack of sleep is celebrated. It's like, wow, you haven't slept for 17 hours. You're our hero. We need to change that, man. Without sleep, we deteriorate very quickly. And, I know that if I have a bad night's sleep, if I, for whatever reason, couldn't sleep until 3, 4 a.m. and then I have to do these shows, it kills me on those days. And that's why Granny D goes to bed at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at the latest, and I'm practically out, lights out by midnight, right? Now, for me, it takes me about 2 hours to actually fall asleep, so I have an entire ritual to make me calm down before it actually happens. But yeah, sleep, health, making sure you can tackle things in your, if you can sort your teeth out, if you've got wisdom teeth that are maybe impacted or something, go either yank them out or I don't know, do something to improve your health, but don't just put up with it because it's your health. You've got nothing else. Never mind money and stuff. If you don't have health, you've got nothing. No amount of money is going to make up for the fact that you've got random pains everywhere and, lose the ability to go outside and stuff. It's horrible. Trading Nickel says, YouTube better have a chat replay because the science of breathing early in this episode and your responses were just incredible. Yeah, we have Jerome D here. This is why I want to get him on here. He is, that's his expertise, right? So we'll see whether we can get that over here. I think psychology of trading and, breathing and controlling your body in a more sort of self-aware way, it's been getting a little bit more interest in recent years. I remember 10 years ago when the whole trading YouTube was in its infancy, because you had singers and stuff. You didn't really have YouTubers who were let's trade live on YouTube. First and foremost, the live video services were just not that great at the time. So until COVID, we kind of had we had the infrastructure to do it. We just, for some reason, until everybody was at home and just watching Netflix and YouTube all day, they didn't improve the services and they weren't using all of the data centers to its full capacity for some reason. And then COVID happened and everything started crashing, so they had to improve services. And that's around about the time when the video calls, because of Zoom and stuff, it got improved so much that you can easily stream in HD or close without any problems. And that's the explosion of sort of YouTubers who started doing live streaming started happening really, right? So it was, before that it was yeah, you had a couple people, but, not really. So We do have a chat replay on these, but it takes a while to buffer. So you typically won't be able to see it immediately, but then after, I think, a couple of hours when they kind of process the video and stuff on the back end, they do have the chat replay as well. Wasim says, you know what would be interesting to compare strategies during Trump's previous 4 years, terms versus Biden, maybe strategy change depending on political ideologies. I wouldn't say that strategies change. I would say the volatility of the market changes. So VIX definitely kicks up when Trump is in office. I can tell you that from the last time that we had him hanging with us. VIX was high. We had random tweets coming out and everything just going absolutely insane. And then kind of going back to where it was after the tweets. Now we have him coming out with actually talking to us. You know, if he's awake for some reason, he's like, hey, let me address the public. It's like, please don't. I was actually joking in the VIP. You know, somebody said I think Wyatt said, hey, you know, I think my problem right now is that Trump is awake. So I said, yeah, somebody give him like a horse tranquilizer or some weed or something. Just shut him up. And the stream goes down. Just joking. Yeah, but seriously, like, you know, every time Trump opens his mouth, the markets react very aggressively to whatever he has to say. With Biden, it wasn't like that. He would come out, he would be, you know, old man with like the speech, slightly demented, and it just didn't have the same effect, did it? Like, he's not a sensationalist man, whereas Trump is like sort of like a media whore who's like, yeah, man, let's stir up the tabloids. What can I say next that is super outrageous and will rattle everybody's cages? I know, tariffs for everybody. So, you know, those kind of differences in personality and character will clearly have an effect on the markets when a person like that becomes the president, right? So you have to take that with a pinch of salt. So the way I always adapt my strategies, regardless of whether we have Trump in power or not, I look at the volatility indexes. I've mentioned them here before. And you have VIX, you know, don't have to go far for the equity indices. VIX is a good measure of volatility. Anytime it's above 20, that's like bonkers conditions, right? Anytime it starts falling below 20, you could argue that below 18, below 17, that's not really day trading conditions. And you can go back in time to have a look at, let's say, you know, the quantitative easing program measures back in 2013, 2014. What was happening then? We had very, very small days. So go and have a look at what VIX was doing back then. We have historical data, right? So it's like, what was VIX doing in 2013, 2014 when we had 16 ticks in ES for the entire 24 hours? It's like very exciting. Not. But yeah, so now the VIX is, I think, well over 20. I think it was creeping up to 25. And that means it's like completely crazy, right? It's completely crazy. And that means you need to, like, the levels will still work. It's not the levels, it's the size of the candles around it that increases during high VIX times. So for example, if you were using 20 points on NQ, consider using 40 or 50 points instead, because, you know, the candle sizes that we have are absolutely crazy right now. Even on ES, yeah, you know, I can't trade with my usual 10-point stop, because 10-point stop is designed for the times when we have about 200 ticks on the session, for the session, right, on average. Whenever that increases massively, you must account for that in your stops and your sizing as well. And here it comes again, size down. Oh no, there's that phrase again. It's like everybody's going to start rolling eyes every time one of us coaches says Size down, slow down, size down, slow down. Somebody should make like a meme of a parrot, of all of us as parrots going, size down, slow down, size down, slow down. Polly wants a cracker, Polly wants a cracker. Because that's all we say to people. You know, it's like half the battle of passing your combines and staying in your XFA. Like, do whatever you want in your combine, but just know that if you're doing unsustainable things in there and you've never been able to keep an XFA past like 1 week, let alone to, you know, pass a month and to actually make it to the live transfer, that is, you know, that's a problem with sustainability of your approach. And it could be as simple as size. Your size is too large, so you don't give yourself enough swings at the bat on the day to actually get your strategies to express themselves. Like, everybody makes mistakes. You will not have 100% accuracy. You know, well, you might on some days, but that's not particularly realistic. So if you're looking at, you know, a lot of the scalpers or wannabe scalpers, they are aiming for high accuracy. I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum. I aim for high risk reward over high accuracy. So you will see me do like a few punts on the trading idea that I have, and then taking partial stop outs means that I don't take full -1 Rs, but I will take, you know, -5 ticks, minus, you know, whatever. Like, for example, on DAX yesterday, I was trying to figure out, it was a very difficult day. Managed to, like, I was break even on the day, didn't manage to make any cash yesterday. But yeah, so I'm on the stream, so 11 a.m. fine. Yeah, I'm finishing the stream then. Sorry guys, we got electricians coming in, so that's just my husband asking me whether 11 a.m. is okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was like, what does he want? He's usually never awake at this time. It's like, what is going on? Where was I? What was I talking about? I just lost my train of thought completely. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, yeah, what was I talking about? Damn. I know I was talking about the volatility, and then I wanted to make a point before I got so rudely interrupted. Anyways, yes, volatility, whenever volatility is high, stops. Yeah, is that what I was talking about? I think so. So yeah, if you were using, you know, big positions and you're using fairly tight stops, and you've never been able to hold on to an XFA, in this environment, that's going to get even tougher, right? So you're for sure not good. Like, your accuracy is going to go down because you will get more stop outs because your stops are not appropriate now for this new sort of market state that we have. And then, you know, you get into an XFA and you try and do the same thing, and then you're like, what is happening? Like, I'm doing the same thing. And if you were never able to keep an XFA before, just size down. It will get better with your emotional state. You will be able to make more sane decisions. You'll be able to stay in trades longer to maybe get over that, you know, 1.3 R profit factor on the trade, that will push you into positive R territory, and things get so much easier. Like I said, I get a few punts on the trade idea, and then I get partial stop outs, which lowers my accuracy. But then when I get my big trades, that's usually 2R. But sometimes if I'm like really careful with trade locations, that's 5R, right? So I can be a complete muppet, and I can click buttons to all my desire and have like, you know, 25% accuracy. However, I maintain a 43% accuracy at all times, or across very, very long sample sizes. And I can still be profitable, you know? So I'm like, my system is fairly stable. Obviously, I still have to behave myself. I can't be doing like a million trades a day and, you know, more trades. I have to be at a right point of the chart. I have to be, you know, aware of what I'm trying to do with the trade, and then have enough patience to hold it for long enough in order to get the higher R. Now, if you were in Hoop's room yesterday, he always says, oh, Dee, you hold trades longer than anyone else I know. Because, you know, most of the the guys on TopstepTV who came from the pits, they were scalpers and they carried over that mindset into trading. I came from electronic trading only, and I started off as a swing trader who was holding trades not for like a few hours. I was holding them for like 2 days, 3 days, 2 weeks. On a rare occasion, I would hold them for 2 months as well. Not very often. Usually my trades were like about 10 days, so a couple of weeks worth. But yeah, there were times when I just, caught a really good swing and I just kept it for a couple of months and nothing changed and it kept going. So I was like, okay, great. So to come from that into intraday, like everybody else, I thought intraday was about like loads of trades and clickety click, and it didn't help the fact that one of my first couple of jobs was like a market making thing, and they were like, okay, you have whatever it was, like 1,000 lots to fill today, and I was like, what? Because like, how the hell do I do that? They're like, oh, you can do it however you want. You can do it in many small trades, or you can do 1,000 trades for one tick, or you can do bigger trades, and however you want to do it. But you have to fill 1,000 lots today. I hated that job. I was just like, this is not for me. This is very stressful. I don't want to trade that many round turns per day. So I tried to find a company that wasn't pushing the market making onto me. And so I found my style in, moderate amount of trades per day across a few products, because as you know, I trade multiple things. So I will not be smashing in like 13, 15 trades in like one single product. I will be trading platinum. Then I don't see anything in platinum, I will move on to gold. Then I don't see anything in gold, I will move on to RBOB, right? So I might do 3 to 5 trades in a day, but they won't be all the same product. Hopefully that makes sense. Wasim says, I think trading should be treated the same way you treat the gym. You have your routine, you have your rest days. If you're not feeling well, you don't go, but you always stay consistent. I couldn't agree more, Wasim. That is actually something similar that I'd say to people, that, trading is kind of like fitness, but also dieting, right? If you make some changes one day, but then you don't stick to them over time, nobody's going to care, nor will you have results. But when you are consistent with your changes, after a while, that starts to have a cumulative effect on the overall performance, right? So whether it's the gym, or whether it's, and you can have a cheat day where you go into a practice account and go bonkers with like all of the YOLOing and FOMOing and clicking all the buttons to get that out of your system. Then go, like, you have cheat days or cheat meals. In my case, I never did full-on cheat days because, a cheat meal is just one meal where you go outside, you have whatever you want, you come back. However, some people in the fitness industry, and I think, again, they were more noobs, they thought that the cheat day is a day where you just gorge yourself on crap for 24 hours a day. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, really? Like, I'm the biggest carboholic in the world, right? So this is why I stayed keto for like 8 years. I've gotten better because I've got some problems with new food intolerances as well. It's a part of this lovely illness that I've got. So I had to, like, I have a very, very limited amount of foods that I can eat without reactions right now. However, when I was like still a fitness freak and, going to the gym 5-6 times a week, I would be talking to my, my sort of friends and whatever, and they're like, yeah, so today I'm going to have a pizza, then I'm going to have a curry, then I'm going to have ice cream, then I'm going to have loads of booze and margaritas and blah. And I was like, whoa, man, like, so what does that do to your body? Like, And some people treat the combines that way, right? They buy a combine, they like, pay whatever from $49 to $149 for it. And they just click buttons. Then they blow up, then they reset, then they do the same thing. And, after about a third reset, they should probably go, I've just spent like, $500. And I've got nothing to show for that. but I've YOLO'd it. Like, why? I don't understand the need to do that. Is that complete fight or flight response just taking over? Like, what are we trying to do? Like, or is it like lack of strategy altogether? So it's like, let's just swing for the fences and maybe, blind squirrel and all that. Shay Hughes, I'm calling it out. I went full Muppet yesterday, guys. Too much size. Then lost my head. There you go. So what is the one takeaway here? Too much size. This is something we see over and over and over. Too much size. I oversized and I overtraded. Those two are like killer, right? If you oversize and overtrade, there's like zero. Your risk of ruin is like 1,000,000%, not just like, a little bit high, 100%. No, it's going to be in the billions percent. There is zero chance of you making it if that's what you're doing. Oversizing is bad enough. Oversizing and overtrading, that's never going to work. It's just never going to work. So it's like, let's try and be, and what are we afraid of? Let's break down the moments when that happens. What exactly are you thinking? If you're like, let's say if you oversize and you lose that one big trade, is that what kicks you off? Like, is that the mental trigger? You have to find exact mental trigger that pushes you over the ledge, right? Into the Muppet behavior. If that's, just being in a trade and then, the level not working out, Trump opening his mouth and you lose a trade, is that the mental trigger, or was it the size? Was it too much size? Was it the loss? Was it maybe not something not moving? That's my trigger. I enter a trade, nothing's moving. Then I flip, then nothing's moving. Then I flip again, and then I go, okay, Muppet mode loading. I need to get ahead of this. And then usually I just shut it down, step away for a few hours, come back. Usually go for a dog walk and something. Just literally to just clear your head, move away from the charts entirely, and come back with fresh eyes without, psychological traumas. But at the same time, I don't resize up like a lunatic. I'm always like quite careful. What way are you reading time and sales? Okay, so for time and sales, to avoid things being all on the same screen and to keep everything close on Topstep, I do have time and sales there, but this is really what I use, which kind of smushes everything together. So it smushes volume, real-time orders, dome, like everything. That's Bookmap, and I prefer Bookmap to time and sales. I think Coach J is really adept at reading pure time and sales because these are the orders going through. However, Bookmap saves them for you. You can see the bubbles. It means more volume. I also like to have them, whether it's bid or the ask. So that's where green or red bubbles are. If it's more red, that means there's like effectively sellers are winning. And then you have to match that up with volume. Are we seeing more volume, or is volume a bit patchy? Like right now, this is a bit patchy. So I would say that this is a bit of a battle here. So if we would get a microstructure shift to the upside to break on DAX to break like 23,204 and then sustain above it, that would be like a long entry for me. And just like little things like that. But until we get like green balls, green bubbles, that is a no-go yet for any kind of longs. It means that sellers are still in control. So it just gives me a better overview of how things are happening. But in effect, it is a similar thing that you can see on the time and sales. Usually I like to filter this to see bigger buyers and sellers. You can see there was a big dude here at 15 lots on platinum. So we are getting a move back up. I'm going to wait still to see whether we can get to some levels or maybe get a pullback. But yeah, this is probably going to go to VWAP first and foremost. Then we're going to have a neutral day type, so that's not good. I'm probably going to wait until Comex to trade platinum. Like, it's moving, but my levels are just, I'm not liking what I'm seeing here. But yeah, the way I read time and sales is basically looking for the real-time orders to sort of be on the same side as me. Whenever I see very big orders, I will be extra careful, because if this guy eclipses all of the others, they will win. So, the longs will be more in force. The guys that are just one lot, I don't put too much stock in them. They're like very, very small. So I want to see what some of the bigger players have in store. Platinum is a very slow tape. It's not like NQ where you get a seizure just by looking at it. So it's very readable, probably more suitable for beginners. But you will notice that the bigger guys are still not here. We still have a few people trading 6, 3, 2, and in the last 10 minutes, there's more bigger buyers, obviously, and look at what happened. It had a pretty big effect, right? Pretty big effect, and continuation carrying on. You can also watch it for whether the orders are filled. Like, for example, if you see a big order on the dome, once we get there, you look at time and sales to see whether they're all filled, and there are tools that can count that and tell you. But yeah, you can also see them going through. So, there's multiple uses for time and sales and the dome and level 2 data that provides an insight into how the market is doing. All right, so that is one question. Let's see, Anthony Bravo says, do you use ATR? And if so, how do you use it? Okay, so I actually have my own concepts that I kind of modified out of a need, and this is where the pro development market stalkers method exists. This was the reason why we kind of started the channel, not this channel, but my own market stalkers channel on YouTube. So that is where like some of the concepts that were already there were not really working for me, given the fact that I was trading through 2 sessions, and I got like sort of mixed messages from using the ATR just on the day, as you have, like, for example, over here, let's change the time frame, and then just going right. You're not going to be able to see that because I'm hiding it. Let me maybe just do this for a second and remove my face. So ATR of over 14 periods right now tells me on platinum on a 5-minute that it's 15 ticks, so 1.5 points. Okay. Now the problem with that is as you get into the overlap period, you generally, for most products, you will get an expansion, a huge expansion of the range. So if you're then basing it over the average of the last sort of 14 periods that comprise of London moves, what happens then? Your stop loss is inappropriate. And then you get smacked across the face and you're like, what just happened? Where's my trade? So to avoid that, I started thinking of better ways to do that, to like calculate your stops and stuff. But the primary use of ATR is to find the volatility on the day and then to effectively base your stops on that measure. It's a systematic way of doing it, but like I said, I ran into problems because I was trading through 2 sessions that have vastly different ranges attached to them. So what I did, I thought long and hard about it, and there was some guy who was looking at the ADR as sort of a level. He said he worked for a hedge fund at one point, and they were just looking at the projected ranges over the last sort of 10 days. So that intrigued me. I was like, okay, let me try plop it on the chart. I didn't have an indicator that showed me at that point. And in fact, my Blotic DR indicator, our indicator, remains one of the few on the market that actually calculates that correctly. So my use for the ADR and then my concept ASR, which effectively takes just the session average range over the last 10 days or 14 days, and then projects those on the chart as levels, which is what you see on my chart here, ADR high, ADR low, and then you can have ASR high, ASR low, average session range high, average session range low, which will start to recalculate. It is a dynamic measure. It is not a static measure. Okay, so it's not like, oh, we open at midnight, let's just put half up, half down. That's called the fixed daily range. That is not what my average ranges are. My average ranges start at the session open, whichever session that is. So you have Tokyo, London, New York Stock Exchange, and then it starts to track highs and lows on the day. So it has an average. So as you're making new highs or new lows on the day, depends on how the day is developing, it will track that until one side is exhausted. And that becomes, ergo, average session range exhaustion, right? So that is why I call them the projected algorithmic ranges on the day. They are not some random numbers that are pulled out of my ass. They are actual, statistical averages that we've had over the previous X number of days. So what I do, that's one use. So as a level, my second use is to get the average session range divided by a certain number in order to get my sort of a maximum default stop loss that I should never go over. And that gives me a very, very good idea of the volatility of the product. So if the ASR markedly increases, I need to increase my stops. So this is where the systematic nature of what I do starts to come out. But yeah, so two uses for those. And I know some people, since I've been on TopstepTV, they're like, well, where can we find it? Do you use the Ninja? We only have indicators right now for MetaTrader 5, which is via AM Futures, but because that's real futures contracts because of the popularity of that platform back when we started doing the indicators in like 2015. But we're working on NinjaTrader indicators right now. And we will be aiming to bring them out sometime this year. Don't quote me on that because it's obviously down to my development team, not just to me. I'm just more of a strategist. Like I can code, but I'm just not that great. So yeah, I have a team of people who do that for me. We have a little meeting, how the progress is doing, and then one of the previous meetings, we had someone who very excitedly started to code in the latest version of C#, only to find out that Ninja is not on the latest version of C#. So we had to throw all of that out and start again. But yeah. Anyways, Bernie says maybe less pressure on the combine than XFA. Definitely. Deepak says, I started my combine on Tuesday, haven't traded yet, no longer button pressing, but also didn't take an A1 setup yesterday. That's the pressure, man. That is the pressure. So I would say, so here's the thing. Whenever you reach a goal and your dopamine levels go out of whack because you're like, yes, I'm in an XFA. I reached a goal. What happens is that the dopamine rush raises your baseline. And that baseline needs to come back to normality if you're going to trade from any sort of prefrontal cortex and you trading rather than I'm the wizard, I can do no wrong, which again leads to blown up accounts. It takes, without any extra precautions taken, it takes a full month before your dopamine levels come back to the normal baseline. Now, there are ways to expedite that through meditation, exercise. There's an interesting study on mice where they jacked them up with extra dopamine and then basically measured how long it takes to come back to baseline. However, they fasted them for 2 full days, for 48 hours. And after that, mice dopamine levels went back to normal. Take it with a pinch of salt because it's on mice, not on, the study was on mice, it wasn't on humans. And yes, we're mammals, but I would say that mice and humans still probably have quite big differences between them. If the study was done on monkeys, I would be, yeah, man, let's jump on like two-day fasts to control our baseline dopamine levels. But anecdotally, in my community, people have said that even a one-day fast has helped them to control themselves better in an XFA. However, I do practice sizing massively down to like 1 micro and only focusing on the time of day when statistically you had the best stats. So rather than going, you passed your combine, trading, let's say after IB during the New York hours. Then you get an XFA and you decide you're going to whack in a trade at Globex Open. Now that is not you trading. That is your baseline levels giving you that rush. Now what happens with the dopamine is that we have a rush of motivation and productivity. That's why they say, oh, dopamine is very good for you. Yeah, for traders, dopamine is death of XFAs. So be very careful of increased productivity and motivation feels. You need to tackle that before you do any trading. So it's okay that you didn't take your A+ setup. Obviously, there's a bit of fear going on. But to gain confidence, go through your stats and see which time of day. Like you will probably have to use external platforms, external journaling platforms for that, because I don't think that we have hour of day performance, which I've asked them to do. I've definitely asked them to do, but they haven't done just yet. So yeah, have a look at the best time of day, best hour of day of your performance in the combine, and hopefully you have more than 2 days sample size, because that's, sample size is very important. If somebody comes to me and goes, hey, I passed the combine in 2 days, and I'm like, great, you have no stats now. You have 2 days worth of stats. What are we going to derive from it? That you had 2 good days? Slow clap. Well done. So I always say to my group, come to me with 1 month's worth of stats and, how you manage your down days, how you manage your up days. Like, I'm not interested in anyone passing anything in 2 days. Like, not unless you're like already a successful trader, then do whatever the hell you want, right? You know what you're doing. But if you've never managed to hold on to an XFA longer than like a week, there's a problem there, right? There's like you're doing something unsustainable. So you need to figure out what, and the only way you're going to do that is through a good sample size. And even on a bad day, like people don't realize, you have a bad day. You go back to see the times of day when you didn't suck, right? So yes, the day was red, but let's have a look at the portion of the day when you were actually successful. So you may have effed it up completely at the open, but maybe the second part of the session was actually pretty good. What do we extrapolate for that? Stay the F away from the open, yeah? So yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to have to finish this up today a little bit earlier because I have an electrician coming in to do some changes here and final checks. Because I don't know how many of you know, we are changing the primary residence, so I am trying to get everything together because we sold this house, so I am going to be moving to the countryside, and there are things to be done before the final move happens. But yeah, thank you so much for being with me here. Very intelligent questions. My dogs are about to go nuts. Yeah. But yeah, basically, let's see what the day brings. I will see you later on today because I will be helping Dolby hold down the fort. So you will see me for an extra couple of hours later on. Until then, let's try to not rush towards the end of the week. Think of the trading. I will tell you what I tell my VIP coaching group, to think about the week as a bell curve of trading activity. As you get towards the end of the week, you sort of reduce your trading activities, especially if you already had profits for the week, rather than going full port on Friday and then messing it up. Yeah, so click the like, click subscribe. This was the London session on TopstepTV. I will see you all a little bit later. Until then, take care.